Cowboy gave his only horse to a wounded Apache woman. What she offered him was beyond imagination. The planet Red Mesa was known across the frontier as a place where old traditions refused to die. Dust storms rolled across wide red plains, and the sky burned orange at sunset like an endless fire. Advanced ships sometimes crossed the sky, but on the ground many people still lived like the cowboys of ancient Earth. They rode horses instead of machines, trusted their instincts more than scanners, and believed that honor mattered more than technology. Elias Reed was one of those people. He lived alone on a small ranch at the edge of a canyon valley. His home was simple, built from weathered metal panels and stone. Wind chimes made from broken tools hung by the door, singing softly whenever desert winds passed by. His life was quiet, almost forgotten by the fast-moving galaxy. Elias owned very little. The ranch struggled every season, and water was never certain. Some neighbors had already sold their land to corporations that promised safety and comfort inside giant city domes. Elias refused. He preferred open skies and long horizons, even if it meant hardship. His only true companion was a strong chestnut horse named Dustwind. Dustwind was not a mechanical animal like many used now. He was real stubborn, loyal, and fast enough to outrun most desert storms. Elias often spoke to him as if he were another person. Out here, loneliness became easier when shared with a living soul. One evening, Elias rode along a narrow canyon path after delivering supplies to a distant settlement. The air felt heavy, and silence pressed against the land in an unusual way. Dustwind slowed without command, ears turning toward the rocks. Elias trusted the horse's instincts. He scanned the area carefully. His hand rested near the grip of his revolver, though he preferred not to use it unless necessary. Then he saw her. A figure lay half hidden among the stones, wrapped in dark fabric that blended with the desert. At first he thought she might be dead, but then he noticed a slight movement. He dismounted slowly and approached with caution. She was a woman, her skin carrying warm bronze tones marked with faint glowing patterns that looked both tribal and technological. Her clothing was torn, revealing armor beneath that shimmered faintly with alien energy. Her long dark hair spread across the ground like shadows, and her breathing came in shallow, painful bursts. A deep burn marked her side. It looked like a plasma wound. Her eyes opened suddenly as Elias stepped closer. They glowed faintly silver, reflecting the fading sunlight. She tried to rise but failed, falling back with a quiet gasp. Elias raised his hands gently, showing he meant no harm. "It's all right," he said softly, though he knew she might not understand his language. She watched him carefully, as if studying every movement. He could see strength in her gaze despite the pain. After a long moment, she accepted. She drank slowly, never looking away from him. Between them, in silence, not trust yet, but recognition that neither wanted violence. "My name is Elias," he said. She hesitated before answering. "Tala." Her voice was steady, but tired. He noticed symbols on her clothing that reminded him of the Apache clans who lived beyond the canyon ranges. They were descendants of Earth tribes who had adapted to alien environments over generations, blending ancient traditions with advanced technology. Many outsiders misunderstood them, but Elias respected their connection to the land. "What happened?" he asked gently. She shook her head slightly, clearly unwilling or unable to explain. Instead, she whispered only one thing: "They are coming." The fear in her voice told him enough. He looked at the sky, scanning for ships or drones. Nothing yet, but the desert could hide danger easily. Tala tried to stand again and nearly collapsed. Elias caught her before she fell. She froze at his touch but did not pull away. "You can't walk," he said quietly. His eyes moved toward Dustwind. The horse stood patiently nearby, watching the scene with calm intelligence. Elias felt the weight of the decision before he even fully thought about it. Dustwind was not just transportation. Without the horse, Elias would struggle to survive the long distances between settlements. Giving him away meant risking his own safety, but leaving Tala here meant certain death. He helped her slowly toward the horse. She resisted at first, confusion crossing her face. "This is your mount," she said weakly. "Yes," Elias replied. "You will be stranded." "Maybe," he said, offering a small smile, "but you need him more." She stared at him, clearly struggling to understand why a stranger would give up his only companion. Many people on Red Mesa would have walked away. Elias adjusted the saddle and helped her climb carefully onto Dustwind's back. The horse shifted slightly but remained calm, as if sensing the importance of the moment. He handed her the reins. "Follow the canyon east," he instructed. "You'll find shelter before nightfall." She hesitated, eyes searching his face. "Why?" she asked. Because someone should. For a moment, the desert seemed to hold its breath. Tala nodded slowly, as if accepting something deeper than simple kindness. She guided Dustwind forward but stopped after a few steps. Turning back, she studied Elias one last time. "I will not forget this," she said softly. Then she rode away into the red glow of sunset. Elias watched until she disappeared beyond the rocks. Silence returned. He adjusted his hat and began the long walk home. The journey took hours. Without Dustwind, every mile felt heavier. The desert grew cold quickly after dark, and distant thunder rolled across the sky. Yet Elias felt strangely calm. He had done what felt right. Unknown to him, a small drone hovered high above the canyon, recording everything. By the time Elias reached his ranch, exhaustion pressed against him like a physical weight. He lit a lantern and sat quietly outside, staring at the endless stars. Somewhere far away, engines roared through the atmosphere. The next morning, strange ships appeared near the horizon, and Red Mesa would never be the same again. Morning came slowly over Red Mesa, but the quiet peace of the desert did not last long. Elias Reed stood outside his ranch house, watching unfamiliar ships hover far across the horizon. They were not trading vessels or settlers' transports. Their shapes were sharp, dark, and heavy with weapons. Even from this distance, Elias felt unease settle in his chest. Dust lifted from the ground as engines disturbed the air. Elias turned away and continued his morning work, feeding the animals and checking the broken fence near the east side of his land. Without Dustwind, every task took longer. He missed the steady rhythm of riding, the comfort of having his companion nearby. Still, he did not regret his decision. Around midday, a group of riders approached. They were not riding horses, but hovering bikes that hummed with low energy. Their armor reflected sunlight like mirrors, and each carried advanced rifles strapped across their backs. Elias paused, wiping sweat from his hands as they stopped near his gate. One of them stepped forward, removing a helmet. His face was cold and sharp, eyes scanning the ranch like he already owned it. "You Elias Reed?" the man asked. "That depends who's asking," Elias replied calmly. The man smirked slightly. "We're looking for someone. A woman. Injured. Passed through this area recently." Elias felt his heart beat slow instead of racing. He had expected this moment since Tala disappeared into the desert. "Lots of people pass through," he said simply. The leader stepped closer, boots crunching against dry dirt. "She's dangerous. Stole something valuable. Helping her could bring consequences." Elias studied the man quietly. He had seen enough people like this during frontier conflicts, men who believed power meant they were always right. "I don't know anything about stolen goods," Elias said. One of the other hunters activated a scanning device, sweeping it across the ranch. A faint blue light moved over the walls, the ground, and even Elias himself. He remained still, showing no fear. The leader sighed. "You cowboys always think you're heroes," he muttered. "This isn't a story, it's business. Then I'm not your man." The hunter watched him for several seconds, as if trying to read something hidden behind his calm expression. Finally, he turned away. "Keep your eyes open," he said before returning to his bike. "If you see her, contact us. There's a reward." The group left as quickly as they arrived, engines fading into the distance. Elias waited until they disappeared before letting out a slow breath. He knew now that Tala's situation was worse than she had admitted. That evening, rumors spread across nearby settlements. More ships had arrived. Patrols searched the desert and questioned travelers. Some said a powerful artifact was missing. Others whispered about ancient alien technology capable of reshaping worlds. Elias tried to focus on work, but his thoughts kept returning to Tala. He wondered if she had reached safety. Night fell, bringing cold winds and endless stars. Elias sat outside with a lantern, sharpening tools and listening to the desert sounds. Suddenly the air shifted. A faint vibration ran through the ground, almost like distant thunder but more controlled. Elias stood slowly, scanning the darkness. At first he saw nothing. Then, far across the plains, a faint glow appeared between canyon rocks. He narrowed his eyes. It looked like moving light, soft and steady, not like the harsh beams of hunter ships. Unseen by Elias, hidden sensors placed by the bounty hunters activated again, recording his reactions. Somewhere far away, someone watched closely. Meanwhile, deep within a hidden canyon, Tala stood before ancient stone structures covered in glowing symbols. The ruins stretched high into the sky, older than any colony on Red Mesa. Energy flowed quietly through the walls like living light. She placed her hand on a crystalline object floating at the center of the chamber. The artifact responded immediately. Soft waves of energy spread outward, wrapping around her body. Her wounds closed slowly, pain fading with each passing moment. But healing was only part of its power. Images filled her mind. Visions of Elias walking alone through the desert, his quiet determination, the moment he gave away his only horse without hesitation. The artifact pulsed brighter. It responded to intent. To sacrifice. Tala understood then why it had chosen to reveal itself to her. Because of him. She opened her eyes, decision forming within her heart. The hunters would not stop. If they discovered Elias helped her, they would return. She could not allow that. Back at the ranch, Elias prepared for sleep when distant lights appeared again. This time they were closer. Engines roared softly in the distance. He extinguished the lantern and moved quietly toward the barn, keeping low. 2 ships descended nearby, their lights sweeping across the land. Figures stepped out, scanning carefully. The hunters had returned sooner than expected. Elias remained hidden, observing their movements. They spread out, checking tracks and scanning for energy signals. One of them paused near the path where Dustwind once stood tied. "Energy residue here," the hunter said through a communicator. Elias's jaw tightened slightly. They were closer to the truth now. The leader approached slowly, looking around with growing suspicion. "He's hiding something," he muttered. They moved toward the house. Elias stepped out before they could force entry. He walked calmly into the open, hands visible. "No need to break anything," he said. The leader smiled thinly. "We just need answers. I already gave them. Not enough." The tension grew heavy as weapons remained ready but not fired. Elias stood firm, refusing to show fear. Then something unexpected happened. A sudden pulse of energy flashed across the sky like silent lightning. All scanning devices flickered and shut down instantly. The hunters turned in confusion, looking upward. Far above the horizon, a faint, glowing figure moved through the storm clouds. Elias felt a strange certainty settle in his chest. Tala was coming back. And whatever she carried with her was far beyond anything the hunters expected. The desert wind rose, swirling dust around them as if the land itself was waking. The leader cursed under his breath, realizing the situation was slipping beyond his control. Elias watched quietly, knowing the next moments would change everything. The desert wind rose suddenly, sweeping dust across the ranch like a living wave. The bounty hunters tightened their grips on their weapons, eyes searching the sky as strange energy rippled through the air. Their scanners flickered uselessly, blinking with error signals before shutting down completely. Elias stood still, watching. Far above the horizon, a glowing shape moved through the clouds. At first it looked like lightning, but slowly the light formed into something clearer, a rider descending through the storm. The hunters raised their rifles. "What is that?" one of them whispered. The answer came quickly. A horse burst through the dust, hooves striking the ground with powerful rhythm. Its body shimmered with faint lines of energy that glowed like starlight. Upon its back rode Tala. Dustwind had returned, stronger, faster, and protected by alien armor that seemed grown rather than built. The horse moved like a spirit of the desert itself. Tala's presence felt different now. Her injuries were gone, and her eyes shone brighter than before. In one hand she held a staff formed from crystal and metal, glowing softly with controlled power. The bounty hunters hesitated, unsure whether to attack or retreat. The leader stepped forward first. "You're coming with us," he said sharply. "That artifact doesn't belong to you." Her gaze moved toward Elias instead, and for a moment everything else faded away. She nodded slightly, acknowledging him, a silent promise kept. Elias felt relief but also concern. The situation was dangerous, and the hunters were clearly desperate. "You shouldn't have come back," he said quietly. "I gave my word," she replied. The leader grew impatient. "Enough talking. Caesar." The hunters moved forward, weapons raised. Before they could fire, Tala lifted the crystal staff. A soft wave of energy spread outward, forming a transparent barrier around her and Elias. The hunters' shots struck the barrier and dissolved into harmless light. Shock crossed their faces. "This is your last chance," the leader warned. "That technology is too powerful to remain in your hands." "Power is not the problem. Intention is." The ground trembled as energy flowed from the artifact into the desert itself. Dust swirled upward, forming moving shapes that confused the hunter's vision. Elias stepped beside her, not hiding behind the barrier. "You might want to leave," he told the hunters calmly. "Doesn't look like you're winning today." He signaled for a heavier weapon from one of his team. A large cannon unfolded, glowing with unstable energy. Elias felt tension rise. This could turn deadly quickly. "Tala," he said softly, "we should avoid hurting anyone if we can." She nodded. "I know." The incoming blast curved away, redirected into the sky where it exploded harmlessly like distant fireworks. Fear replaced confidence in the hunter's eyes. They had expected resistance but not control like this. Dustwind moved forward, positioning himself between Tala and the attackers. The horse's eyes shone with intelligence, almost as if it understood the battle. Elias noticed something else. The desert itself seemed to respond to Tala. Small rocks shifted, and the wind changed direction as if guided by unseen hands. "Fall back," one hunter shouted. But the leader refused. "We don't leave without it!" He charged forward, trying to break through the barrier physically. The moment he touched it, energy pushed him back gently but firmly, knocking him onto the sand without injury. The barrier was not meant to harm, only protect. Tala stepped forward slightly. "I do not wish to fight," she said. "Leave this land." The leader hesitated. For the first time, doubt showed on his face. Reinforcements would take time to arrive and their equipment no longer functioned properly. Slowly he realized they had lost control of the situation. He stood, brushing dust from his armor. "This isn't over," he said before signaling retreat. The hunters returned to their ships and lifted off quickly, disappearing into the distant sky. The silence fell again over the ranch. Elias let out a long breath he had not realized he was holding. "Well," he said, "that was exciting." Tala allowed herself a small smile. Dustwind walked toward Elias and lowered his head slightly as if greeting him. Elias gently touched the horse's neck, feeling warmth beneath the glowing armor. "You look different," he murmured. "The artifact healed him," Tala explained. "It responds to bonds and sacrifice." They walked slowly toward the house as the wind calmed. Inside, Elias poured water into 2 cups. Tala accepted one, studying the simple room with quiet curiosity. "You risked much for me," she said. Elias shrugged lightly. "Just helped someone who needed it?" She shook her head. "It was more than that. The artifact chose to awaken because of your action. It senses truth. Compassion without expectation is rare." Elias listened quietly. Tala placed the crystal staff on the table. Its light reflected softly against the walls. "This power belonged to my people long ago," she explained. "We protect it so others cannot misuse it. Many seek it for control, for profit, like those hunters," Elias said. "Yes, they will return, and not alone." Elias leaned back, thinking. He had lived a peaceful life for years, avoiding trouble whenever possible. But now trouble had found him anyway. "What happens next?" he asked. Tala hesitated before answering. "I cannot stay in one place long," she said, "but I could not leave without repaying what you gave." "You already brought my horse back. That's enough." "You gave your only companion to save a stranger. What I offer is beyond a simple return." Outside, the desert sky darkened as another storm approached. Lightning flickered in the distance, casting long shadows across the land. Elias felt that something bigger was beginning, something that would change his quiet life forever. And this time, he would not face it alone. Dark clouds rolled across the sky like heavy waves, and lightning flashed silently behind distant mountains. Elias stood outside the house, watching the horizon while Dustwind grazed nearby. Tala stood beside him, her eyes calm but focused, as if she could feel something approaching long before it became visible. "They will return," she said quietly. Elias nodded. He had expected that since the hunters retreated. People who chase power rarely gave up easily. The desert wind grew stronger, pushing sand against the walls of the ranch. The air felt charged, filled with invisible tension. A faint hum reached their ears. Elias looked up. 3 ships appeared through the clouds, larger and more advanced than the ones before. Their metal surfaces reflected lightning flashes, making them look like shadows moving across the sky. "They brought friends," Elias said dryly. Tala stepped forward slowly, holding the crystal staff. The artifact glowed brighter, responding to the rising threat. "I will try to end this without harm," she said. Elias moved beside her. "Then you won't be alone." She looked at him with quiet gratitude. The ships landed at the edge of the valley, sending waves of dust across the ground. Figures emerged, heavily armored, more organized than the earlier hunters. At their center walked a tall woman wearing elegant but cold-looking armor. Unlike the others, she carried no visible weapon. "I am Commander Varric," she announced, her voice amplified through hidden speakers. "You possess an artifact that belongs to no single person. Surrender it, and no one here will suffer. This land is protected," she said. "Your claim has no meaning here. Protection is a fragile idea. The galaxy values power, not sentiment." Behind the commander, machines rolled forward, devices designed to absorb or neutralize energy. They activated, sending waves of interference across the valley. The artifact flickered. Tala tightened her grip on the staff, maintaining control. She did not attack. Instead, she waited. "Last chance," the commander said. Elias stepped forward suddenly. "You came a long way just to take something that doesn't belong to you," he said calmly. "Seems like a waste of time." "You are the human who helped her." "Guilty," Elias replied. "You gave away your only horse to a stranger," she said. "Why?" Elias shrugged slightly. "Because she needed it." The commander seemed genuinely confused by the answer. "People do not sacrifice without expectations," she said. "Maybe they should," Elias replied. For a brief moment, silence settled over the valley. Tala raised the artifact again, and instead of sending energy toward the attackers, she directed it into the ground. Light spread outward like flowing water. The dry soil began to change. Small green shoots pushed through the sand, growing rapidly. Cracked earth softened, and fresh water bubbled from hidden underground streams. The valley transformed before everyone's eyes, becoming alive with color and movement. The machines trying to absorb energy stopped working, overwhelmed by the natural flow spreading through the land. Commander Varric stared in shock. "This is impossible," she whispered. Tala lowered the staff slightly. "This power is not meant for conquest. It heals, it restores." The commander hesitated, clearly realizing that forcing a battle might destroy something far more valuable. Elias stepped closer, his voice steady. "You want power," he said, "but look around. Maybe power isn't what you think it is." The commander watched the new life spreading across the valley, plants growing where nothing had survived before, animals emerging cautiously from hiding. Slowly, she lowered her hand. "We misjudged the situation," she admitted quietly. The armored soldiers exchanged uncertain glances but followed her lead, lowering their weapons. "We will leave," she said finally. "But understand this. Others will hear about what happened here." Tala nodded. "Let them come with open hearts, not weapons." The ships lifted off soon after, disappearing into the storm clouds. Silence returned once again. Elias let out a long breath. "Well," he said with a small smile, "that went better than expected." Tala laughed softly, a rare warm sound. They walked across the valley together, watching new plants grow from the soil. The ranch looked different already, alive in a way Elias had never seen before. "This is what I wish to offer you," Tala said. "Not wealth, but renewal." Elias knelt, touching the green grass pushing through the earth. For years he had struggled to keep the ranch alive. Now the land itself seemed grateful. "You've done more than enough," he said quietly. She shook her head. "There is more. The artifact allows travel between worlds," she explained. "I protect many places like this. But I cannot do it alone. I would ask you to ride beside me when you choose." Elias considered her words carefully. Adventure called to him, but so did the peaceful life he had built. "And the ranch?" he asked. "It will remain yours," she said. "A sanctuary, a home you can return to whenever you wish." Dustwind walked toward them, nudging Elias gently. He smiled, feeling that his path was becoming clear. "You know," he said, "I never planned to leave this place." Tala waited patiently. "But maybe," he continued, "the frontier isn't just one world." She smiled. Together they watched the sunrise break through the clouds, painting the desert in gold and red. Elias had given away everything he had without expecting anything in return. What he received instead was beyond imagination. Purpose, partnership, and a future wider than the endless horizon. And as he mounted Dustwind once more, riding beside Tala toward new journeys, the cowboy understood that sometimes the smallest act of kindness could change the entire universe.